Hello, vinyl community, and welcome to Mike's Vinyl Experience. Thank you so much for tuning in with me here today. I appreciate each and every one of you so very much. Today, I've got a really, I think, another fun video. I'm going to be reviewing Mobile Fidelity's recent release of Dire Straits on Every Street. The album is a double 45 RPM album, released by, as indicated, Mobile Fidelity. It is not on super vinyl, however. This is just on their regular vinyl that they press at RTI. Very good album if you're a Dire Straits fan. This is one of my favorite Dire Straits album. You know, this is the sixth studio album that they released, their sixth and final studio album, I should say. And it is one of my favorites, but then all six of them are really, really good. I don't know if I have a least favorite of the bunch. I have them back here, the Mobile Fidelity, and that's really the reason that I purchased this one, was to complete my collection on Mobile Fidelity. I have all of the original pressings, and they are all really, really good as well. In fact, on the original pressing that came out in 1991, when the album was released, it came out on 33 RPM single disc. They had 6 songs on each side. The album is just a titch over 1 hour, so they had to narrow the grooves the best they could to fit all of the tracks, all the 12 tracks, 6 on each side, onto the one album when it was released in 1991. And so that, you know, some say, well, kind of degraded the sound a little bit. I'm not so sure. Listening to it, I thought it sounded really, really good. Keep in mind, when this album was released in 1991, it was done digitally to a PCM master. So it wasn't recorded analog to begin with. So their Mobile Fidelity is taking the PCM master and then, you know, putting it right to their console and then lathe, and then doing whatever else it is that they do. But in later releases of the album, after it came out initially on one single 33 RPM album in 1991, it came out in 2014 and I think it also got released in 1996 too. But I think in 2014 it came out on a double album, 33 RPM, but there was only 3 tracks per side on that. But they did do a double album so that they didn't have to squeeze the tracks or minimize the grooves on the record. And I think that really helped out, and it sounds great. One of the ones that I have is this one. This one's a double album, 33 RPM, that was released in 2014. And then I've got another one somewhere that I put was released in 2021. But anyway, the album initially was mastered by Bob Ludwig. And so you knew right from the get-go, as all of the other Dire Straits albums, when they were originally released, were released and done well. They were mastered wonderfully, mixed wonderfully. So it had a great birth and it sounds really remarkable. So let's go ahead and talk about the Mobile Fidelity release that just came out of this wonderful 6th album of Dire Straits. As you can see, the cover is done very, very well. It is actually quite a bit brighter than the other releases that I have. I don't know if you can see that, and if I'm even holding this up and if it's making any difference to you. But the album seems to be quite a bit brighter than the others. It's actually done well. It's a gatefold, as you can see there. Very, very nicely done. It's pretty much true to the ones that have been released after the original album. The cover that Mobile Fidelity has done is very, very nice. The albums, as indicated, they are not super vinyl. They are 45 RPM. They're very clean, sound very, very nice. The music, the vinyl itself, actually, I should say, is actually quite quiet. And I'm wondering, I've always thought about this, the quieter the vinyl is getting with these new releases nowadays, if that's really contributing to the difference in sound that we're hearing with some of these represses. Is the quality of the vinyl and the quietness of that vinyl, I think, really plays a huge role in the interpretation, or at least the sound of what we're hearing as sounding better than sometimes the original. Now, granted, that's not always the case, but I just think that quiet vinyl really adds an element of clarity to the vinyl that maybe some of the other ones, the original pressings, weren't fortunate enough to have. And so I think that might play a huge role in the quality of the sound that we hear on some of the represses that we're currently getting. So let me explain a little bit about the Mobile Fidelity process. As indicated in 1991, when this was originally released, it was done digitally to a PCM master. So what Mobile Fidelity has done is taken the digital PCM master, and they have taken that directly to their analog lathe, and then, of course, to RTI to press the vinyl. What they do along the way, I'm not really 100% sure, but I think just in listening to this album, and I want you to know that it does sound very, very nice, I wasn't overly blown away. Let me explain that just a titch. When I was listening to this album, it sounded great. It really did. But then all the other copies of this album, which is 2, they all sound great too. It was done very, very well right from the get-go. As indicated, and we've talked about it, Bob Ludwig doing the mastering. I don't know if there's an album that I have, and I've got a lot of albums that Bob Ludwig mastered back in time, and I don't know if there's any of them, and I'm not sure, but I don't know if there's any of them that were bad. I think Bob Ludwig did a very, very good job of mastering the albums that he worked on, for sure. But I like this. The sound of this album is very similar to the sound of the other Mobile Fidelity albums that they've repressed, keeping in mind that the originals all sound fabulous as well. I think this does sound, in my impressions after doing some comparisons, I think it does sound a titch better, and I attribute that to the quietness of the vinyl, even though it's not super vinyl. So it's not their quietest vinyl, but it would have been neat to see them do that. But it's not, but the vinyl is quiet. And I think that has, at least in my mind, and I could be wrong, I think that has a major contribution to the quality of the sound of this album. Now, is it in comparison to the original pressing? And then I got one right here. This one was actually a 2014 pressing, and it's very similar. Incidentally, sorry, this is a double 33 RPM double album of the album. It's not a gatefold. It does have the inserts that are very similar to the gatefold Mobile Fidelity album. It has all of the songs, and lyrics and so forth in the album. But in comparing the albums to the Mobile Fidelity 45 RPM, and I'm sure that the 45 RPM is a contributor to the sound quality as well as the quiet vinyl. But in comparing these albums, I wasn't overly blown away by the Mobile Fidelity version. It does sound better after final analysis. It really does sound better, but by this much. And I think that was indicative of what the entire line that Mobile Fidelity has done of these. They've made them better, but not by huge, huge margins. So I think in everyone's mind, and I can talk about this in a little bit, but is it worth $60 to repurchase these albums? Well, the reason I purchased this one, obviously, is because, well, I've got the rest of them on Mobile Fidelity, and I wanted to complete my collection, and I like the album, and of course I want to get the best sounding album. And this is pretty much similar to the others in the Mobile Fidelity collection. I think they sound better than the originals, but by this much, and I mean a small margin. The originals were done great. As indicated, this one was mastered by Bob Ludwig. Did a great job. I think it's a great sounding album. Now, having said it's this much better than the original, let me kind of give you an example of what I mean. Now, I did a review on this album, the Van Halen, their first album. I did a review on this just a while back, and I compared it to the Ultra Disc 1-Step, which is on Super Vinyl, that Mobile Fidelity did, and I think this is significantly better than the original. These are not. They're better, but they're not leaps and bounds better. Can you hear the difference? Absolutely. If you sit down and listen intently, you will definitely hear the difference. In particular, I hate to keep harping on it, the quietness of the vinyl is going to be probably the biggest noticing thing that you get. I do think instruments, maybe because of the quietness of the vinyl, do have they're just a little bit more crisp, a little bit more precise, if you will. Attention to detail is a little bit better on the Mobile Fidelity than it is on the other copies that I have. And keep in mind, the other copies are good. They sound very, very nice. It's probably, once again, you know, Dire Straits. Initially, these albums were done very, very well right from the get-go. But the sound quality on the Mobile Fidelity is a bit better, in my opinion, than the original. So, is it worth $60? That's what the going rate is for the Mobile Fidelity on Every Street album currently right now. Is it $60? I believe you can get the latest 2021 pressing. Let me see if I can find that. I think you can get the latest 2021 pressing for around $30. Is it $30 more? I think if I was to bring my wife and sit her down in my seat in my music room and put on these two albums and have her decide and tell me which sounded better to her, I don't know if she could do it. I really don't. I don't think that she would be able to say, oh, yeah, that's the Mobile Fidelity one. I don't know. So to a person that is a collector, to a person that really is looking for this album that might be one of their favorites, and you want the best sounding version of it, it's worth $60. I paid it, glad I did. It's part of my collection now. But to be honest with you, the originals are excellent. They're very good. If you've got the original and you're content with it, I wouldn't spend my $60. I really wouldn't. It's a good album. It's a great album. But with that caveat, you know, only if you're a lover of Dire Straits and the album, and the funding says that you want the best sounding version of the album you can get, then go ahead and spend it. But in all honesty, the originals are not every bit as good. They're not as good, but the differences are very, very minimal. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. Please list any comments in the comment section below. If you like what you see, please go ahead and subscribe. I'm going to try and get my room tour video out this next little bit here. I've got a couple of other albums that I want to review with you. The new Lou Donaldson Tone Poet release that just came out. I'm excited about that. And of course, I've got Alice Cooper's Welcome to My Nightmare. A couple other of the Atlantic 75 and Analog Productions releases. I'll be taking a look at those. And then, of course, I'm going to be pulling a record out of my collection, giving it a listen, and talking about that as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please leave comments in the section below. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for listening today. Have a great day.